Good evening, everyone. We're just going to go ahead and start. My name is Carrie Ann Thomas, and MLS 2108495. Again, welcome to our DSCR Masterclass. The format for tonight is that I'm going to go over the slides. If you have a question, depending on how many people show up, feel free to ask. You can unmute your mics and then go from there, okay? And if there's something that you need me to repeat, because sometimes I do talk really, really fast, it's okay. Just say, Carrie, please repeat. Okay. Again, welcome to our DSCR Masterclass. So the DSCR loan in general is something that's a lot of investors know some about. It's widely used around the country. However, there's some areas of DSCR that are still unfamiliar to certain investors, right? So the objectives for tonight is to better understand the DSCR loan in general, how to qualify and use the loan, to explore the pros and cons, common barriers you might face, and the ways to overcome them, and how to avoid common mistakes. So when you think about a DSCR loan, the definition of DSCR is literally debt service coverage ratio, right? Again, debt service coverage ratio. The DSCR formula, it's net operating income over total debt service. And a lot of people are not familiar with that. So you can say DSCR, it's pretty much the rent over the PITIA, which is the principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and association dues. And association dues, this is like the HOA. Some places do not have HOA. So a lot of the time it is just the PITI, which is the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, which is the mortgage. All right, so the mortgage plus the association dues. So bottom line, what the DSCR is, or debt service coverage ratio, is the rent able to cover the mortgage and any monthly expense, excluding, like utilities, things like that. So that's pretty much the overview of a DSCR. Again, the rent that's coming in, are you able to cover it? Or is the rent able to cover the mortgage plus any HOA fees? Okay. This does not include water bill, does not include any light bills, does not include telephone, does not include lawn services, things like that. So they do not factor in those services. And for me, that's a plus, because if they did include those utilities and things like that, a lot of persons would not qualify for the DSCR loan. It is mainly for investors, and it's widely used. All right. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute your phones or unmute your line and ask away. Okay. So DSCR example, if you have a rent of $1,250 per month, and your mortgage or your monthly payment is $1,000. If you divide it, you will end up with a DSCR of a ratio of 1.25, which is a good place to be. Okay. Again, if your rent that's coming in is 1,250 and your mortgage, that means you're making some kind of profit. All right. So the DSCR would end up being 1.25. And what does this measure? It measures the cash flow versus the debt obligation. All right. In general, and this is generally speaking, and tonight we're just going to be generally speaking, it is definitely not for all lenders. So whatever we're going to be discussing tonight, it does not apply to all lenders. It applies to some, generally speaking. Okay, so that's a disclaimer. It does not go for all lenders. I have access to over 200 plus lenders, so it varies. And they have their own policies, they have their own procedures, they have their own guidelines, and it's also based on state. Okay? So in general, lenders prefer to see 1.0. All right. What does that mean? It simply means that the rent is 1,000 and the mortgage is 1,000 at least. Are you able to go down lower? Yes, I've seen at 0.75 where the mortgage is higher than the rent. I've been able to do loans for persons whose apartment was not rented. All right, but in general, they do want to see at least 1-to-1. The 1.25, this is a good place to be. All right. So the DSCR loans. The DSCR loan is specifically for move-in ready properties. All right, rent ready, habitable, income producing properties. What does this mean? It means that it's the structural integrity is intact, the plumbing is intact, the wiring is intact, the roofing is intact, the overall maintenance of the property is intact. Now, if you see your house and you want it, and it has a hole in the ceiling or it has a hole in the wall, this is something that you'll have to work out with the seller prior to DSCR covering the loan or prior to the closing date. All right. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible for you to purchase a property with minor repairs needed, but an inspection will be done. All right. And if it's not considered quote unquote moving ready, then the DSCR loans, the lenders will not cover the property. All right. But again, this is something that you can work out with the lender, not with the lender, with the seller, where if you want the seller to cover a certain thing prior to you purchasing, work it out with them. All right. If it's a property that you absolutely want. Okay. So basic documents that are needed for the DSCR. So in addition to doing an online application, these are basic documents, right? Based on the type of loan that you're doing, DSCR that you're doing, based on your circumstances, based on the state, there might be additional documents that are needed, right? But these are just the basic ones that we're going to be looking at tonight. In order to get a pre-qualification letter, you need at least 2 to 3 months bank statement in PDF form from your online banking platform, okay? And this should include all pages, all right? Even if you have a blank page, it should include blank pages as well, all right? Again, 2 to 3, in general, they prefer to do 2, but you will hear a lender now and again say, you know what, I need 3. And when we look at the bank statement, one thing that we look for is to see if there's anything that looks suspicious, to see if there's any NSF, which is for non-sufficient funds, if you have any negatives, things like that. All right. I also want to make sure that you have the down payment available. All right. So a lot of persons, when they're purchasing properties, they did not put aside the amount of down payment. They assume that the rent alone will take care of it. That's not the case, all right? You need to have the down payment. And when I look in the bank account, I want to make sure that the down payment is there and available, okay? All right, so again, for banking, whatever bank account you use, certain things that we see, we're not able to unsee. So just be careful. And if I miss something, you don't want that to go to the underwriter, or you don't want that to go to the lender. Okay. So it doesn't matter how many bank accounts you have, whichever one you give to me, just avoid having non-sufficient funds. If you had an overdraft 4 months ago, that's fine. I'm not going to ask you for 4 months. All right. For a DSCR loan, I won't request 4 months. Certain loans, a bank statement loan, different types of loans, they might ask for additional months, but for DSCR, we won't ask for it. All right. The max I've seen is 3. Again, 2 to 3, just to make sure that they're consistent. You're consistent with your banking. All right. So a copy of the government issue ID, passport, driver's license, copy of your social security card. All right. the loan would be, if the loan is going to be in your LLC, the following is needed. You're going to need the article of organization, operating agreement, certificate of good standing, EIN. In general, these are requested by the lenders. All right. Sometimes they'll be able to go online and get certain certificates without you asking for it, but sometimes they can't. All right. So it's best before you even start doing the loan, whether it is going to be purchasing or cash out refinance, it is okay once you have it in your mind that you're going to be purchasing property for you to get your LLC. Don't wait until you have a property because you will take time out of the closing. All right. You want to make sure that you have these already in a folder handy and ready to go when it's requested. Okay. So don't wait until you find the property before you start registering your LLC, applying for the EIN number. I know it's quick, but depending on the state, you might need to wait a few. All right. So I've had cases where the loan has started and I'm like, hey, may I have this document? And it takes like a week before they can get the documents to me. All right. You're only delaying the loan. All right. So have these documents before, ahead of time. Okay. So basic requirements, reserves. More and more lenders are requesting reserves. All right. Believe it or not, they'll even request reserves, even if it's a cash out refinance. And in your mind, you know what? I'm cashing out, doing a cash out refinance. I'm taking money out of the property. I can use the money that I'm taking out of the property as reserves. Some lenders won't, that won't fly with some lenders. All right. They still want to see that you have reserves. All right. And what is reserve? It's pretty much money's put aside to pay for the mortgage just in case the tenants are not paying. All right. Some lenders, they want to see 3 to 12 months of reserve, depending on your case. It depends on your credit. It depends on your status. For like foreign nationals, they'll say, you know what, I need 12 months reserve. All right. And this is to secure their money just in case the tenants are not paying. All right. So, and it varies. It varies by lenders. It's based on their policies. Again, you see 3, they'll request 6, they'll request 12, depending on the lender, depending on the circumstances. All right. Sometimes the lower your credit score, the more reserves they want to see. All right. Because again, they want to avoid any risk. Okay. The good thing about the DSCR loan is that there are different forms of liquid assets that you can use. You can use a checking account, savings account. You can use stocks. You can use bonds. You can use mutual funds, retirement accounts, 401ks. All right. A lot of people are unaware of this, that you can actually use this to as reserves. All right. So you don't have to cash out your 401k. All right. You don't have to cash out your stocks, or you don't have to. You just need to show it that, you know what, this is the amount that I have. All right.
Can I use crypto?
Yes. There's some lenders, all right, who will allow you to.
Okay.
Okay. So basic requirement, continue. Your personal credit will be run. And this is a question that I've gotten often. I'm closing in my LLC. Why do I need to have my credit run? Ultimately, somebody has to be responsible for the loan just in case it falls through, right? Just in case there's any delinquents, just in case. All right. So yes, you have your LLC, but at the end of the day, your credit will be run. And I'm not able to provide a pre-qualification letter without your credit being run. And it is going to be a hard pull. Unfortunately, I've seen where soft pulls, when you pull a soft pull, it does not give you an accurate credit. All right. When you do the hard pull, you have a more accurate one, and that's what we go by. All right. We go by the 3 credit bureaus and we use the middle score.
Please remember to subscribe, comment, like, and share.